Here comes the money. Here comes the money. Money, 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 money. Money, 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 money. Money, 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 money. Money, 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 money.
It's a special episode of DeathPiles and Taxes. It's a holiday week for those of us that live in the United States of America. We know we have you listeners from France and elsewhere in the world, but you know what's up.
Today is Lee Greenwood's greatest song day. America, it's your birthday, July 4th. We're excited.
Adam's giving Lady Liberty and the spanking machine. He's going to town.
Okay, what are we? A lot of years old this year.
Yeah, let's have a little retrospective this year at the podcast. We've got a little thing, a little of everything, but we've got pretty card crazy. So what we're going to do is we have a special episode that we've saved up for such an occasion.
Yeah, I mean, that's what after intro is going to be Americana, baseball, basketball. I know we're getting there. The hard part is this COVID thing has really had to make us adjust how we source.
It's just been a weird year, but we appreciate you guys listening to us, being here with us, and still sourcing. And the one thing it's shown us is that there are still people buying online even through this pandemic. If you remember a few months ago, I was having better numbers, and I think a lot of people were than Black Friday. So it's crazy.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I had a conversation with my UPS guy, which again, that's another good person to get in contact with.
Yeah, or have on your side, sure.
Make sure you bring out cold bottles of water.
I mean, I don't have a cold bottle of water. I'm your partner in crime, but UPS man, sure.
I'm sorry about it. There's some I should have got you one.
You should have.
You're
making America cry on their birthday.
It's because I don't do it anymore, and I just don't take it for granted.
I know where the fridge is. I can help myself.
No, the UPS guy said, he's like, this whole online shopping thing has really kind of spurred that older generation to 65 plus, 85, in that range, and they're all buying online too now. So he's delivering a lot. I mean, we bought a rug online the other day. So items that you didn't used to think that you could because they weighed so much and they were awkward, and now they come right to your front door.
And it's even better, and a lot of us are selling those kind of things. Like I was saying, I'm pretty heavy into cards, and this was before we had our membership and stuff. We had my brother and Brian in the studio.
Yeah.
And I just broke down PSA and kind of the population report, what I do. We recorded it and held on to it because we knew there would be a day that would be a very special day to play that for our people.
And that would be 4th of July.
When we didn't want to come back and do an episode.
The thing is
Adam's out eating watermelon at the park, and I'm skipping rope and have a sparkler in one hand, going double dutch.
I would pay to see you jump rope with a sparkler in your hand.
How much?
I don't have my $20 bill up there.
Yeah, you refurbish that. Or replenish.
Replenish. I do need
If you print them off, I don't know what happens.
Yeah, apparently maybe you meet another guy in a parking lot. You could give us some money. No, I love this time of year. Like it's 6 months. The year's half over. It's a good time to reflect. It's a good time to look and see. Okay, how much money have I made? A lot of people don't track that as well as they should.
It's halftime.
It's better now to look at it than to wait until April of next year when taxes might be due.
And I think we said this last year because it rings true, but it's time to make those halftime adjustments. If you're paying too much in taxes, get a good tax man, get Adam Beasley, get whoever you need to do. If you're not making enough, start sourcing differently or start pricing differently.
Yeah.
If you're not selling enough, fill up that wagon.
Yeah.
And reevaluate your business and figure out what you like to do. This was the conversation where Brian told us he didn't like going to thrift stores, so we said don't do it.
And I now that I'm learning, it's been a while since maybe I've forgotten that I like it, but I really enjoy what I'm doing now. This has kind of been good for me. It's allowed me to really, I guess, expand my knowledge. And that's what I tell everybody, like, somebody will say, hey, what do you think, should I buy that? Like, yeah, it's $150, get an education, man, so go for it.
Adam's always for it. Even if the whole internet's against it, he tells them to take a leap in. Be calculated, not, some people $150 is more than an education. So if you can't afford to do it, it's kind of like if you can't afford to go play the slot machine or the lottery ticket. If you can't afford to do it, obviously don't just source yourself into more debt. But at some point you need to learn, and sometimes you need to take a learning curve. So
If you can't afford to take $150, you need to make that decision before you ask somebody else.
that's a good point. And maybe go to a yard sale and start buying cards there
Exactly.
for $1.
If you can't afford a $150 education, then go to the free section of Craigslist and go to the free section of Facebook Marketplace, because you can still source for free.
Yeah, build yourself up. Go to the thrift stores that have way too much going on, and
All right, and we're back. That phone call really, took us for a trip. I think we're just going to go right into it. Thank everybody for listening. Said we're halfway through it. I mean, we're fastly approaching. Derek, I don't know if I shared this with you, but we're well over 10,000 downloads now, all over the world. I think we're up to like 19 countries that we've been in. So we appreciate all our listeners. Special like 4th of July. I mean, freedom is freedom. No matter where you live, it all allows us to do this, to sell stuff online and enjoy it.
oh, thanks for listening. Adam, our friends over at Sellhound have outdone themselves. They're giving the DeathPiles and Taxes listeners an opportunity of a lifetime.
They're going to help us make some money, get rid of that death pile, get your items listed, because you can't sell out of an empty wagon.
Man, sell all that you got, kill that death pile. When you go over to Sellhound, use promo code, capital letters, DeathPiles25 to save 25% off of their service.
And get out there and start making some money. Welcome to the non-stabby part of the Death Piles and Taxes.
Non-stabby, you had to wait for that roadster to get down the road before you could even start recording.
That's right. This is a special bonus 66th episode. We're going card heavy.
Route 66. Adam's got his cards ready to submit. We talked about it a little last episode, but we're going to take more of a deep dive. If cards are your thing, this is going to be interesting to you. If not, still listen. It might be interesting to you.
It's going to be. I mean, cards, memorabilia. I mean, any of this is going to apply to you. So, you said we're big followers of Derek Buddy Gary V. He just did a 2-hour and 40-minute podcast, whatever, YouTube, of just talking about cards.
And we're going to try to best that and make ours 2 hours and 20 minutes just to beat Gary.
I said 2 hours and 40 minutes.
2 hours and 45 minutes we're going to do straight talk. Don't know before you stop listening. That's a joke.
That is a joke. We're going to get right into it. Like he says,
An hour and a half tops.
tops are Bowman or Don Russ.
And panini apparently,
Yes.
like the grill.
The George Foreman.
Yeah.
Derek's brought up a couple things. We talked about cards, and I've gotten really big into it with my kids, just looking at things. There's two kind of parts to it, graded cards and raw cards.
And we've talked about it in some different episodes in the past, but we're just going to recap and then go into a little more detail about some of the things I'm doing to see if it's worth getting graded, in my opinion. And so your graded card, well, your raw cards are you go to the store, wherever you're shopping, and they have sports cards or any other card, open from the pack, and it's just your cardboard card, which we've all seen, grew up putting them in baseball, in your spokes and what have you.
And we will bring it up. We do have Aaron, special guest.
Aaron's hanging out again.
He's talking about his Magic cards, his Pokemon cards.
You're the most guest on the Death Piles and Taxes show at this point. I think you're record holder.
I'm hoping to get on the payroll once this gets going. So.
You are the engineer. I can put you in the show notes as an engineer if that helps you.
That might.
Resume building.
So we're trying to broaden the horizon here. This is not just sports cards. This is cards in general.
So Aaron, we talked about it last episode. I'm approximately 11 to 12 years older than Aaron, depending on how the lunar moon phase goes of the months at that point.
You got one of those weird birth certificates like that baseball player in the Little League Olympics?
I'm like Dikembe Mutombo. I don't know my actual birthday, even though it's here soon. Or sometimes 13. I don't know how it ends up. I'm somewhere in that range, 11 to 13 years older. So I grew up collecting sports cards. However, Aaron, what kind of cards did you grow up with?
In elementary, Pokemon was pretty big. That and Yu-Gi-Oh. Baseball and basketball, all that was always pretty popular, but the big thing was probably Pokemon.
So with Pokemon, that's something I'm not familiar with until they came out with the app and we'd catch them a little bit, but I'm still not that familiar with it. Tell the people kind of short term what it is and kind of what made it special or unique with cards.
So it's just something that people get into. It's like a collector's item, but back when Pokemon was first kind of coming around, it was a game that you could play. So you would get these cards from the store, open them up. There's different kind of creatures, or they're called Pokemon, but they're basically creatures or animals that, however you want to describe them, but they'd have different abilities, characteristics, stuff like that, and you could play with your friends, depending on how good of cards you had, win battles and take over, their Pokemon, and it was kind of a trading game that way. So
Now let me ask you this: your Pokemon cards, because we're going to get into the sports cards. Different people. Has what's the main guy? What's the Michael Jordan of Pokemons?
There's a few. Probably Mewtwo was a big one.
You're thinking Pikachu,
Charizard.
because that's the
Pikachu.
popular, but Charizard's where it's at, Adam.
Okay.
There's a lot of them. So
Now I know. Did Charizard ever go into retirement to go play baseball?
he did not. No.
Did he ever have a Paul George blow out his Achilles heel?
However,
He's still going strong to this day. So.
the early editions, kind of like Gary Vee was saying, with wrestling cards, he likes them because The Rock never gets injured.
Yeah.
Even though that's where I had one fault with his thing, where he said wrestlers never got injured and missed time. There's careers that have been lost that could have been great potential people. We'll get into. Charizard is never going to be on the injured reserve.
Yes.
However, the demand for his cards will keep continuing as people go, but there was only a limited quantity of some of the originals made.
Yeah, exactly. And since then, like over the years, they have different editions come out. But
That's what I wanted to get into. Those are kind of that unique brand, that unique. It's not a sports card. And there's an astronomical, much larger market for those kind of cards than our little niche of sports cards.
I mean, yeah, you get into sports cards, there's whatever, but yeah, Pokemon, especially with the
Worldwide.
younger millennial
Worldwide,
age,
yeah, Asia.
they have tournaments, Japan, I mean, they're huge.
And if I would have been a nicer person and known more about the future, I would have probably got into the Pokemons just so I could flip it.
If we would have been thinking, of course you never think this way.
Yeah, hindsight's 2020. So.
I'd have been buying the same cards and just keeping them. If I had unopened packs of the original Pokemons right now, the sky's the limit on what that could have reached.
We would no longer be in the alleged stabby part of town.
He's claiming it's an 11-year age gap. I need to see the birth certificates, compare some paperwork.
They had to do a calculator to figure out what years they were born.
Oh, we know what years. It was math in between that was a little fuzzy, Adam.
We're not the accountant.
Some of us work for a living.
Oh,
Blue collar.
yeah, blue collar. I got a blue shirt on. That counts. Well, I want to get into the card part, the sports card.
That's fair.
You showed me something in the break with Brian, and I was very interested. We got our stack. We are sending a large stack off to get graded.
And so with grading, we've talked about it before, but some of your more rare or cards that might be more valuable, a grading process, I usually go with PSA. There's different companies out there, but the top two I'd say are Beckett and PSA. For me, Beckett is just fine, but PSA is a little more user-friendly. With that, when you're looking to submit a card, you want to make sure that they are centered. You want to look at how they were cut and kind of a center. Make sure the coloring looks good. Your corners look good. By that I mean sharp. Depending on the year, the era, who it is, a lot goes into it. But just a rule of thumb is make sure it's a sharp-looking card. What you're going to want to do is package it in what are known as top loaders. And that's just a plastic case that you put the card in so that it's protected. You can go on to PSA and submit it. However, a lot of people, and we've talked about looking at cells and that kind of thing on cards. One of my secrets that I told Adam over the break, and now I'm telling you, is I go to the PSA website, which is, what is it, psacard.com?
That's the one, psacard.com.
and I go to what is called a POP report, which is short for a population report. With that, you can look up and see how many of these cards have been graded, total, and then you can go into more detail about, okay, there's this many assigned this grading, and the gradings go from 1 to 10. 1 is the ones that you took out of your spokes and had baseball gum chewed in and you sent in anyways. It looks horrible. 10 is your pristine mint, top of the top card.
And when you say this card, you're referring to the absolute exact card that you're going to have graded. We sent off my first batch. We sent my first batch of cards. We got it with the first hashtag Husky section with the painter out in Santa Clara. That's when you unveiled them. Good party.
It was a good time.
So I can actually look up these 5 cards that I have here. I can look up and see the grade on them. It tells me exactly what it is, and it tells me how many other of those cards are graded.
And the reason that's important, some people wonder why you slab it in plastic and it's worth more money, is because it just shows you the demand, it shows you the supply, and it shows you the condition. You go online right now and you look anywhere with what we call the raw card, and people will say, oh, this is a perfect, mint is a term used a lot. This is a mint condition card. Well, there's no way of proving that. However, if a card's graded and it comes back as a mint 10 card, you can say it's an authentic, perfect card because PSA says so and they're the experts on it, more or less. With that, you're going to want to look at your population report, because if you're sending in a common card and there's 20,000 of them, your 20,001 card isn't going to make that big of a ripple in the pool as far as the demand goes. However, if you have something a little more rare or interesting, for example, what I do with the wrestling cards, I'll go and look, and I might be the person that has the only one that exists, or there's only a few that exist. And the reason that I go to the population report versus like a price guide or breaking down solds is because there might not be any other that exists. So I might have the only one on Earth that exists, which makes it, in my opinion, more rare and valuable. Right now, Adam is looking up one of his cards.
So that's what Derek showed me. This PSA card, and it goes through, and you can look up exactly each one of the cards, how many they're graded. But the cool part is right on there, you can hit the shop now, and it'll tell you exactly what cards are listed. And then if you find that information, you can get on your phone and then check out the sold. So it'll at least give you a better idea what you can do. So I'm going to, like I said, we're going to get nerdy with it here. Some of my older cards, as I listened to the 2 hours and 40 minutes of Gary Vee, there were a couple interesting things as I listed, and I grabbed more cards and pulled them out of my box and threw them in to get graded because he's kind of giving me some tips. One thing that happened is I got some cards back, and they are ginormous.
Yeah, there's different sizes of cards. There's the thicker, even card stock. So sometimes they're a little oversized. You got some, I think those were promotional. Where did they come from?
These are Coca-Cola with your buddy Crime Dog McGruff.
So these were some cards that were given out probably to kids that went to games.
They're the Fairfax County Police Department.
Adam has a what would be classified as rookies for what Dikembe Mutombo and Alonzo Mourning.
Alonzo, these are actually college cards.
So they're a little bigger cards, so they put them in a little bigger case.
But that's what one thing that Gary was talking about with the oversized cards. That essentially this is art. This is what guys our age and they're going to be buying these because they're going to hang them up, and I mean it looks really cool. I mean, you can
I was
see it.
surprised. You can go back and listen in the archives to that episode, but when I gave Adam and Mike their cards, they were thrilled with how cool they looked in the case, just like what you're saying.
I've got some cool ones. I also got the opportunity to get my first rejected card. That's when I found out.
Not your first rejection, but your first rejected
Oh,
card.
I've had millions of rejections. There's a reason it took my wife 5 years to wear her down so she married me.
Your words, not mine.
Well, it's the truth. I got a Michael Jordan Big Star card that was rejected because apparently it was counterfeit.
Yeah, one of the things, especially back in the 90s, we didn't have the internet as much security as they have now. With Michael Jordan and Ken Griffey Jr. at the time, these guys were just like major celebrities, and the cards were really the cool thing. They were really hot at the time, so some of these companies would just kind of make their own cards without them being licensed or distributed correctly. So in order for a card, you have to have licensing agreements for copyrights, that kind of thing. So they just printed off a card and put a name on it, and they would just sell them or give them away at their card shows or wherever to get people through the door, basically. And at one point, some of the places would grade them, but I think legally they got shut down and said, hey, you can't do that. Kind of like the Beatles had bootleg albums come out.
Yeah.
Now you have people stealing movies and whatever off the internet. This was the thing of the time, the bootleg card.
So when Derek first talked to us about it, getting cards graded, and this was like about 6 months ago, 4 months now, it was back in December, so we sent them off in October. I went through all of my cards, which was really fun again, brought back a lot of memories, and I pulled out some of the unique ones. That's what I kind of did, and I brought a couple of these things that we bought from the card show here at the Onion Days. I got some 88, 89 Hoya cards, Alonzo Mourning, Dikembe Mutombo. Those are the big years. Patrick Ewing's probably the most famous Hoya there. So
Where's your Patrick Ewing? You should have that one.
he wasn't. He'd already graduated that year.
No.
The famous cold envelope. Remember we talked about Phil? Phil was a part of the cold envelope. He was in that era.
No, I didn't say that, Phil. I don't believe that happened.
Oh, I wouldn't put it past that guy. He was in that era. Him and his brother knew what's going on. Remember his brother?
I guess they probably did want him drafted to New York.
His
So
brother copied and pasted the letters. I am a Philadelphia Eagles biggest fan.
by hand. When you say copy and pasted, he was doing it by hand.
I know, that's amazing. I had him show my son those folders, binders. But anyways, those cards, I also did a Drazen Petrovic. He's a general, he passed away in an accident, so I figured I'd send that off. That was a cool upper deck. Fernando Valenzuela, 1987 card, and then a Julio Cesar Chavez boxing card. I want to go unique, because that was the junk era, where there's so many cards out there. So those were the reason I sent those in. And again, I learned a lot, whether I turn around and sell them or not, I don't, I'm not, right now they're mine. I'm learning. One day, who knows? I don't know if anybody wants them.
Your kid will sell them for you when you're dead.
Yeah, so like I said, it's going into it. But we talked a lot about different reasons to get cards graded, different aspects. So I told my kids, I want you to go through your cards. Let's see what we can kind of find, and we've gotten better at it. So there's two areas that you can buy a card in, either like a raw card, or you can rip the wax. And I have my kid rip the wax. They enjoying going through the cards.
So explain what you mean by that.
So buying a card, like I said, Phil had some Donovan Mitchell's rookies. He had some, and I bought those for, some was like $5, one was like $20. I just bought the card straight.
So
up.
if you just go buy a card not graded, it could be on eBay, it could be at a card shop. You're just, you know what you're buying,
Yeah.
you see it, and you buy it.
You get that card. Rip and wax is when you pull out of the the plastic, and who knows what's going to be in
So
it. That's the joy.
you're buying a pack of cards, and you're just randomly going through it to see what you get. And yeah, that's the adventure.
That's the excitement part of it. So I'm going to just look at a couple of these cards as we stare at the $1 million Pikachu card. Is that what it is?
So he's bringing up, what do you got here, Aaron?
Oh, I was just looking up on eBay what some of these Pokemon cards are going for, and it's kind of crazy. There's one on there right now that they're asking $1 million for. It's rated actually by PSA, so the same company that they're talking about for the sports cards also does all sorts of collectibles and cards as well.
So why is that $1 million card? Why is this person asking that? If I was to see it, what makes that different from another Pokemon card that might catch your eye?
Kind of the same with sports cards. It's just the rarity, how many were produced. This one in particular was produced in Japan. It's all in Japanese, which people that collect them look for. Just the condition, it's rated a 9, so it's pretty high on condition wise, and just kind of those things in general. Just how many of them were printed, what the condition is, where it came from, is a big deal in this world too.
So is this a guy that's just hoping to get an offer? He has it up high, or is it because he's on vacation and it's up that high, or is this something that he legitimately probably thinks he's going to get?
That's probably a little high for a card. I don't imagine there's going to be that many people wanting to spend $1 million on a card, but it's getting a lot of views on there. It's 7 views per hour. Realistically, that's pretty high price, I'd say, for that. But you can ask. It might be the one and only in the world, and because of that, he can ask whatever he wants for it. So
Again, he can prove that by PSA. It's the one that's graded. Another thing I'll throw out here while Adam's getting some cards and stuff ready is, so we're talking about, about 20-year span that cards are getting hot again because people, now we're approaching our 40s. Me and Adam, people our age, are getting closer to our 40s. Adam has kids that, are about that 9 to 10-year-old range where he's getting his kids involved. They're having fun with it. Aaron's about 10 years behind us. So here in another 10 years, it's going to be the same thing with the Pokemon, with the Yu-Gi-Oh! So that's something to kind of think about when you're investing is coming up here.
Cyclical.
It could be, these $1 million cards could be 2 or 3 million by the time these kids get up here. Or, let's be realistic. We're talking, you go get a Pikachu, whatever now, $10 card, $20 card, get graded, $40, $50 card, 10, 15 years from now, that might be a $200, $300, $400 card.
Yeah, and that's kind of what it talks about, is getting people in there. So I'm going to just kind of go over some of the cards and why I'm getting into it, like why I'm sending these ones off. We've got a couple Donovan Mitchells that I found, like I said, that were unique, and like I said, that was one of the things he said right on there, he told Donovan Mitchell at the All-Star game, just happened a month ago before the world ended. Hey, you really ought to think about getting, 1,000 of your own rookie cards and posting a picture, so bet on yourself.
And this might be something the world might have ended and basketball cards will never exist again. This might be the last year of it, who knows?
The market might have completely failed, and what we're talking about is worthless.
And as well, now people will be reminiscent of buying cards because that's the only way they can live through have their basketball memories now.
So I got a Donovan Mitchell. It's like got part of his jersey. It's one of those serial numbered cards. It's like a 7 of a 99. So I got that one, and then just another Donovan Mitchell, like a rookie card. It's a Panini. Kind of got some gold flake on it, and then another Donovan rookie card. Just another brand. It's a same thing. It's a Panini. Just looks a little different.
That's a Panini status.
Oh yeah. See, you know more than I do.
I might have a few of them. I did the same thing back when we were talking about this a few months ago. I just went, and one of the reasons is we're in Utah, so Donovan's pretty prevalent here, but he's also...
He's going to be that guy.
He's an emerging star, and he's kind of, in our mind, underrated nationally, so we can get it for a little cheaper, and potentially it could pay off more in the long run.
Yeah, and then we got the Jags. Like, I got a Bojan Bogdanovic, Bogey. Not only he's a Utah guy, but he's international. His market is bigger than our market. So I got a signed an auto, one by him. Phil, love that man, Phil. He gave my cards each a Kobe Bryant card.
You gave your cards a card?
He gave my kids a card.
There you go.
He gave us
You're sounding like me.
some NBA, some career tributes. So we're going to have them sent off and get those graded. Those are kind of some of the basketball ones. I'll finish up with the basketball things. Those were cards that we either purchased or Phil gave us. These other ones are just raw cards. My son pulled an NBA Hoops rookie. That was one of the things that Gary talked about is depending on the entry level. I'm pulling these Luka Donkas for, 10, 15, 25,000 Zions. Like, that's just kind of out of everybody's price range,
Well, and when you're talking about buying a pack and finding these, this is a lottery ticket. Yeah, you're going to hit this, and this is a 1 in, 25,000 packs have these cards. So if you're going to buy them to invest, that's way out of price leagues for people, or, like Adam's saying, you're winning the lottery. So
yeah, so that's kind of that weird area of who can really get in and buy these cards, and that's kind of what we talked about, that lower mid-level is where you're going to have a lot more volume, you're going to have a lot more people buying, because, realistically, like, I only have a couple $100 to spend on cards. I don't have a couple thousands that I could, and if I did, I'm going to be kind of selective about what I'm buying. So those are kind of the different ranges. That's why I talked about getting cards graded. So maybe you can tell us, why would you get a card graded?
Well, that's the thing. So I'd go to the population report. Well, first off, I'd look at the card. If it's somebody like a Michael Jordan, everyone knows who he is, household name. Okay, that's one reason. Now you go, was it mass-produced? Was it overproduced? Somebody like Michael Jordan's going to sell a lot, but somebody like a Scottie Pippen or maybe even a Charles Barkley. Charles Barkley's beloved, so I'd probably look into that. I'm trying to think of maybe a Reggie Miller, somebody that was very popular at that time but never took the next step, and I don't want to throw out my Jazz players. there's some demand, but not a Michael Jordan demand. If you look at Michael Jordan now, you got Jumpman, you got Nike. He's making more money now than he was playing basketball. There's still a demand for it. So even though those cards might be overproduced, somebody like a Reggie Miller, there's probably 20,000 of the same card, nothing different about it.
Yeah.
So I'd go with Michael Jordan, or if it's a special insert, like Adam is saying nowadays, they'll put serial numbers on it, so it's a limited run of anywhere from 1 of 1 to 1 of probably about 200, maybe a little more than that. Okay, that's a limited number, that makes it unique. Sometimes they'll put in a jersey or a piece of clothing that they wore,
Yeah.
that makes it unique. If you have a signature, so an autograph, okay, that makes it different, that makes it unique. So I'm looking for something that's different or unique, or somebody like a Kobe Bryant, a Michael Jordan, what's his name that used to play basketball really well? I don't know. Yeah, you just throw out somebody.
Magic Johnson.
You're Magic Johnson. You got Dennis Rodman. I see that. In the basketball, that's about that. In baseball, you got like your Mickey Mantles, you got your Derek Jeter, you got your Cal Ripken Jr., Ken Griffey Jr., some of your bigger names. Football, Tom Brady, Joe Montana. These players that won multiple Super Bowls are well known. Aaron's good personal friend, Andy Reid. You get these people that, Pat Mahomes. He's going to be a good little ball player.
Good little ball player, that Pat Mahomes.
So right now, if they're currently playing, you're taking a shot that these guys are going to become Hall of Famers, well known, win championships. If you're going for people, back in the day, you're going for people that were established and made themselves well known and still have popularity. Rookie years, they only make X amount of cards. If you look at somebody like a Kawhi Leonard, who was drafted, but he was not drafted, was he even top 10?
No, he was like 16 because he was behind Gordon Hayward, which the Utah Jazz botched that one.
So you look at somebody like him, who's became a pretty big star, won some championships, became a pretty solid player. However, his rookie year, he wasn't projected as high. They probably didn't make as many cards of his rookie year, weren't as mass produced as whoever went number 1 in that year. I don't even remember who that was. But that makes his card more valuable because there was not as many of those produced during that time.
Yeah.
So those are the things that I look for in sport cards.
And as I'm looking at my graded cards, I feel good because I can't break them. These other ones I'm being real cautious about.
Yeah, that's the thing. Condition, obviously. I like to say if you have a Mickey Mantle that was ran over by a train, still get it graded because for whatever reason they sell well. It's Mickey Mantle. And if you have a, I don't know who the opposite of Mickey Mantle is that got ran over by a train, don't bother.
I don't know.
So popularity, and your Joe DiMaggio. There's certain people that are pop icons. They they cross over. There's songs by Simon and Garfunkel about some of these guys.
Yes.
So that's kind of what you're looking for is that rarity or that kind of they took the next step to where they're pop culture, their household names.
And then you also have the chance to bet on people, and so that's kind of where we're Donovan Mitchell. So my son pulled a raw Donovan Mitchell out of NBA Hoops. That's kind of that brand. Because right now these cards are so new. So talking about Panini, Don Russ, they don't quite know what exactly the brand is. NBA Hoops, that's still an affordable one. So that's one we're going to get graded. We've also got some Don Russ rated rookies, which Miles Bridges, I pulled a 3 of 10. Wasn't quite sure. He's a pretty good little ball player.
That's going to be good. I don't know if he's Pat Mahomes.
He averages about 16, 17 points. So who knows?
And what Adam means by betting on them is you're taking the bet that they're going to turn into all-stars or championship players.
Yeah.
So
Got this rated rookie from Jason Tatum. He's been playing pretty good. He's been playing pretty well, so that's always nice. Trae Young's a big name right now. He plays on the Hawks. They're not doing great, but he was an all-star, so got one of those rated rookies. And then you talk about just doing the quintessential, the guys who've been there forever. So this is Steph Curry, like a raw. We're going to send that in, just kind of see, because that card, might not be worth a lot, but we'll get it graded. It'll probably be, my guess, maybe $30 to $50. And, we bought it for a pack of, $3.50.
and your total investment, so break down $3.50 for 12 cards, whatever that is.
Yeah.
Plus it's going to be about $10 a card to get it graded with what we're sending in. So you're into it maybe $13. Even if you wait, he's going to be in the Hall of Fame.
Oh, sure.
So you wait till he's going to the Hall of Fame. Maybe that goes from $30 to $40 to $60 to $100 for a basic card.
You just don't know. And then, Kyle Kuzma, He's a Utah guy too, but they talked about if LeBron James wins another one, which the world just ended, they just won another championship.
No, Utah Jazz won this year.
Oh, they beat LeBron in the finals. Is that what happened?
They beat everybody. They canceled the league because they beat everyone so badly. They said this isn't fair to go on and continue.
Rudy and Donovan shared
MVP.
and Corona the beer sponsored.
Yes, they did.
So I guess they did. But talk about Kyle Kuzma, these teams that run on. I mean, he's going to have to potentially have some big things. And then the Evergreens, LeBron James, Court King. So
yeah, right now I know he was talking about this a little bit, but LeBron James is very undervalued. You can get LeBron James cards pretty readily available in their raw form, and there were a lot produced. But you have to think about, he came out of high school, maybe finding rookies. I still think his rookies are undervalued. He won championships in Cleveland, which Aaron knows is a huge deal. Aaron's kind of a Cleveland sports fan. Won it in Miami. If he goes on to win some here in LA, I mean, you look at what happened with Kobe and his unfortunate timely passing, very young, and that might build into the tragedy. But even at that time, he was big and he won in LA. It makes you a superstar. I mean, that's Showtime. That's a whole different level as far as markets go. So with LeBron James, he is kind of trending to that next Michael Jordan status. For this next generation, I don't know that he'll take over Michael Jordan's whole legacy necessarily, but he's going to be that household name. He's got production companies. He's got big deals with Nike, with Gatorade, kind of everything that Michael Jordan did. So thinking of the future, Michael Jordan rookie cards right now are going for graded 10s, going for anywhere between mid $25,000s to about $30,000 for a 10 graded card. You can pick up LeBron graded cards for not that much.
$100, $150, just depending on that. So
and true, there were more supply, more made at that time. But if you get some of these things, like we're talking signed, insert, serial number, there was just a LeBron and Michael Jordan one card that had a piece of jersey from both of them that went for, I think it went for $1 million.
Yeah, it was 900,000.
Yeah, so again, that's pulling the lottery card. But there's definitely demand, and at this point, I think that you can get a pretty good supply for the price right now.
You can do that. And so that's kind of the basketball. We looked at the football aspect. Talked about most of the time it's quarterbacks that move the needle, rookie cards.
You think, your Joe name, the same thing, your household names, Joe Montana, Tom Brady, everyone hates him right now. I understand that.
He's a greatest of all time.
But he's going to go down as the greatest of all time. Your kids are going to think that he was cool.
That's right. So same thing. So I bought one of the cards from Phil. I bought a Taysom Hill. He's another local guy, but it was a 17 of 75.
He had
pretty cool.
Had a pretty good playoff game with the Saints. Drew Brees has kind of been injured this year. He's been kind of their utility player, but there's talk of him moving. If he does move on to be their quarterback and have success.
Yeah, that's the one that I bet on. I paid $8 for it, get it graded. I mean, who knows? Might be worth, if he goes on and does something well, wins some playoff games, you never know.
And where it is a bet, like Adam's saying, you remember Sam Bowie, that name?
Yeah.
There's these players. He was the one that was drafted before Michael Jordan.
Ahead of him, yeah, exactly.
And so there's these players that you will take some bets on, and you can lose. I mean, Harold Miner.
Baby Jordan.
So, I mean, there's
USC's own Baby Jordan.
So there's these players that were supposed to be the next best thing, and they kind of bust.
Yeah.
Who was it that was before Peyton Manning? They were going 1 and 2.
Ryan
Leaf. And so, I mean, there's potential to lose. I'm not saying that this is guaranteed money or you get them graded and they're going to go up in value. It's almost like a mini stock. You're buying stock in this player's success.
And that's exactly what he talked about. He does 80-20, 80% on LeBron. The home runs that are going to happen that are going up. But Taysom Hill, to me, that's a local, it's a local tie. We're not talking, I'm not spending the millions of dollars like he is. But these are just small investments because it's fun to me. So my daughter pulled a Darwin Thompson rookie sign card. He's at a Utah State up the road. If he would have just done the right thing, he would have scored a touchdown in the Super Bowl. Would have been worth a lot more. But, we looked this up. There's only one other that's been graded. So, that was her card that she pulled out of a pack.
And with your packs, so that's a Prism. So there's different cards. They're almost like, you have like the Payless Shoe Company, and then you have like your Yeezys or your Jordans. As far as where they rank, there's certain companies and certain cards that for whatever reason are perceived to be more valuable. that's your own research, and that's somewhat opinion. Some people think Reeboks are better than Skechers. Just make sure they're officially licensed, which we talked about for a few seconds there. Other than that, you should be safe, but there's, the optic, there's the prism,
Panini,
then there's
Domino's.
they all have their higher end, which usually means they're a little fancier, shinier, and probably a little more limited.
Yeah, so that's kind of one. So that was, so those were some football and baseball. Not baseball, getting into the baseball, but we talked about this. I felt like I got bamboozled because I bought that box of Gary V Topps collector sets, the Topps Directs 360. They were opened.
Opened and rifled through, much like my all-in cards.
They were looking for the golden ticket, but I've got something for that guy. Whoever did that, apparently this pack of cards has got some dollar bills inside of it.
So what led you to this? Because you were all upset and bamboozled to now you're sending in a stack to get graded.
At the time, I didn't know enough about it. I didn't even know what I was looking for. I didn't educate myself. And that's one thing, before you put heavy like dollars into this, spend 50 hours. Take some time to look up what you're really looking for. And I didn't know what I was looking for.
Well, it's just like anything. You have to do your research. When you're in thrift stores, you're scanning, you're learning. When you're doing cards, before you start sending them in and getting them graded, which some of us might jump into some things a little bit. I know I've sent in things that, there's some learning experience. Do your research. Use the Google machine. Use your PSA. You don't need a membership to access a lot of their stuff. They got some good stuff up there, so do a little bit of a deep dive.
I guess I was disappointed when I got my Gary V pack because it's open, and I was just looking for the golden ticket. I didn't realize that there was the candy bar inside of it still.
Well, you were trying to keep Grandpa Joe from getting his scummy fingers all over and bending your cards up.
That's right, I was.
That cabbage eater.
Pulling out some of these cards, they've got the Gary V signature, and I looked at quite a few of them, and they've got some, some dollar bills behind it, and especially when you get them graded. But Vlad Guerrero Jr., I know you know the dad.
I know Senior, yeah. You're thinking Chavo Classic.
Yeah, so these talk about live your hobbies, and it talks about, their hobbies, talk about what they like to do, and he likes to play video games. Your buddy Fernando Tatis, he's apparently a fisherman.
I think you read all these when you first opened them, too.
I did, but now I realize they're worth money. Bryce Harper, apparently he likes to food. He's a foodie.
He's a local kind of.
Yeah, he's
Vegas, wasn't he?
He's a Vegas guy.
Yeah.
Been on. He didn't go on an ecclesiastical.
No, he decided to go get some money in the big leagues.
I don't want to. Phil, you're gonna have to dig deep into this one, but this one's for Phil. This is the D.D. Gregorius. Apparently that's his guy. That's his guy. I'm gonna get that one.
Maybe you should go over and trade him some get it graded. Go over and trade him for some cards.
I've already talked about that with my boy. It's like, hey, listen, we're gonna figure this out. Same thing. Here's Mike Trout. That's an evergreen.
He played Salt Lake Bees for a few seasons.
See, look at that. We got some local time. So this is the one that really kind of got me. When he says, I got to go back and look through my pack. Because I was listening to that 2-hour and 40-minute marathon, which was really good.
We're getting close.
We're getting close. But it shows Pete Alonso. Like I said, the one thing that Gary talked about is, when we were younger, baseball was pretty big. And the problem is baseball has not moved forward. They still live in the golden age. The average age of people that watch baseball are like 55.
About your age then, about your contentions.
Getting closer to that. Listen, I got into the cards, and now I'm like getting way into it because now I'm a big Pete Alonso fan. He says, you know what? If Pete Alonso, he hit 53 home runs last year. He says, that's all I cared about is those home run numbers because the more it did, the more my card stock went up. And that's when I'm like, hey, I got a Pete Alonso card, because he's a big New York guy, he's a Met guy, so I pulled that Pete Alonso card and looked it up. I'm like, man, that's like a $40, $50 card. And if I get it graded and he has an amazing season, that could be a $100 $120 card. So that's why I pulled that one. I know his name is big, but I can't remember. Aaron, you're the smart kid. The guy that plays for the Angels, Siani Atang. I don't know, the guy that plays both positions.
Is that Charizard?
Yes, that's a Charizard. He's one of those amazing Japanese guys, so I pulled his. Apparently Ronald Acuna is a big name.
Yeah.
I didn't know. Same thing, listen to it, so we're going to pull that one, put that in there.
Atlanta Braves.
Yeah, Atlanta Braves.
You heard him, haven't you, Aaron?
I feel bad I dropped this. here's one of the Houston Astro guys. You know, they're hot in the news right
Well, they're
now.
kind of controversial because they cheated to win the World Series.
And apparently this Jaron Duran is you know, these guys I don't even know about. So I think what it's really going to do for me is it's going to get me back in. I'm going to join in one of those fantasy leagues.
Oh, that's not a bad idea.
Because then I'm going to be able to basically looking at the stock market every day. So that's kind of my stack.
Well, especially if you can get all your card people on your team so you're following what they're doing.
And that's kind of what I want to do is I want to find the hot guy and buy those raw and then get them graded. I think that's where I'm going to put some of my time and effort this summer. To me, just like what Brian said when he was in here the other day, I like going into thrift stores, but sometimes I feel like my time is not the best spent in there.
And that's the thing. Do what you enjoy. If this is what you're into, what you're enjoying, and you're going to list and sell them, then do it. I was talking with Mr. Painter, and some of these he's just getting graded because he likes them and he's going to hold on to them. Others he's getting graded because he thinks he can flip. That's kind of the name of the game, right? If you can even make it so it's an affordable hobby that you can self-sustain. I just sold on Macari a box of wrestling cards. So what I do now, learning from you and Mike's, what would you call that? When you got upset about getting the cards?
Oh, just, yeah.
Experience.
Yeah, open package.
Is, so I go over to Phil's and I buy some cards and I might pay $20 a box or whatever. I go through, I take what I want, and then I put them back up. Sometimes I give them to Adam's kids. Sometimes sometimes I sell them as an open box. And what I'll do is I generally go on Macari because I'll tell you why. I'll sell them on Macari. I'll ask about what I paid for them, but I take pictures. It's an open box. I very well might be missing things, or I'm grabbing what I want. Might not be what somebody else wants. So I explain what it is, show pictures of the packs are open, put it back in there. Sometimes I'll throw in just a bunch of other common cards, so I'll fill the box. If people ask me, I'll tell them that's what, I just got a bunch of cards in here. And I'll sell them for, what I paid basically, or maybe if it's a higher end, like a Prism or something, half price. So I'm kind of absorbing some of the cost that I'm putting into that. I forgot I had another point that I was going to make that was really great with that.
Open box cards, you sell them and then you get the money.
Why I do it on Macari is because I like to source on Macari. A lot of times you can get things on there as far as the ungraded, the raw cards, especially when we get into some of my older wrestling cards and things that I'm after. I can just keep that credit on Macari. So right now I probably have $40 or $50 there. Instead of taking that and putting it in my bank account, I just use that as kind of my purchasing spending amount. So I know when I go looking at stuff, okay, I got, this price range that I can spend without anything coming out of my pocket, technically, and then I have that shipped to me and I'll get them graded or sell them or whatever. And then I'll go visit Phil again and the cycle continues. I was just there yesterday and I bought the last of his 90s NBA cards, and then the reason I did that was because Michael Jordan. So I got thinking he has all these older boxes of cards that he's acquired from people, but he sells them for like $10 a box. And I thought, if I can get Michael Jordan cards and get them graded, that's going to more than pay for the box. So I was able to find probably 4 or 5 last night of just Michael Jordan cards. Nothing super rare, but in good condition. They're brand new out of the package. I figure I should be able to get at least 8s to 7, 8, 9, and some 10 grades out of it. And then I'm going to sell the rest of the cards that I didn't want, and somebody's going to go through them and do their process. So you got to be creative when you're selling. A lot of the common cards aren't worth a whole lot, but somebody might want them to finish off their collection or just to go through. So instead of just hoarding them and just building up a death pile for yourself, feel free to sell them. Be creative with it.
I like that. That's a really good aspect. So these are the nuts and bolts, the deep dive. This is why I pulled all my cards. Derek does a lot of the wrestling cards, because he literally knows it more than anybody. I really wish you would have called in to Gary. You really ought to get into him sometime.
Gary's got my information. If he wants to get a hold of me, he knows how to do it.
He does.
Let me get into wrestling really fast. So, not a deep dive, but there are certain people that are kind of like the Michael Jordans of wrestling. You got like your Ric Flairs, which you've all seen. He was big on the internet, not the internet, on the Super Bowl this year. A few commercials. They've had 30 for 30. He's getting pretty old. He's had a few scares. right now, if you're even thinking of it, I'd say get collecting Ric Flair autographs and Ric Flair cards because he's going to go down as one of the greatest of all time. You get people like, you've probably heard of The Undertaker. He's still wrestling limitedly, but he's going to retire here soon. Phil has one of his autograph cards, one of 50, I believe, that I'm trying to tell him to get graded because the guy doesn't sign a lot of cards because he doesn't have to. But like they were saying, these guys go down as kind of legends. It's almost like comic books. So it's almost like a real life Iron Man card, you know, to some extent or a super villain. Ric Flair was the bad guy, so it was a real life Venom from Spider-Man or Thanos or whatever. But it's kind of on that level, except for they were real people, so they will pass away and things become harder to get because they're not signing. Obviously, you've heard of Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. Aaron, how many times did you see The Rock on the Super Bowl?
Probably 8 times at least. I don't know.
You were counting.
Yeah, I was counting.
You were getting upset with it.
He made a lot of appearances.
He made a lot of money on that. He might have made more money than the Super Bowl champions did.
Possibly, yeah.
So, but people like that, like we're talking Michael Jordan in pop culture, The Rock's the biggest movie star right now in Hollywood. You can find some of his earlier cards. We've talked about Rocky Maivia, but some of his earlier stuff or some of his signed stuff, it's valuable. You got going with the Marvel and stuff, Dave Bautista. He was a James Bond villain. He's in Guardians of the Galaxy. He was also a pro wrestler for a time. There's just some of these things that cross over, and some of the cards are very available, but the grading and some of them are pretty rare. So again, instead of looking at your solds on eBay, which we'd recommend for other things, I'd say go into your population report on PSA, look up the year, look up and see how many of these exist in graded condition and what condition your cards are in. And if that's a realm that you want to get into, you can do that. Also, we were talking Pokemon cards. Yu-Gi-Oh! Is that how you say it? That's kind of the same idea, right?
Yu-Gi-Oh!
Yu-Gi-Oh! Magic. But they have comic book cards. And comic books are extremely popular, and they always have been. But it's the same thing. There's just so many subcultures. If you're into any of these things, what makes these cards popular is just, people enjoy them, right? So, like I was saying with Aaron and his age group, it's coming up to where the Yu-Gi-Oh!
Close enough.
And the Pokemon, I don't really know Magic. I don't know, was that your age or was that my age?
Magic Johnson.
Yeah, Magic Johnson. But you're seeing this trend coming. We can get ahead of the wave on some of these things if you're just in it for the money right now. Or if you have passion, if you like sports. It's little stocks and players. If you like, the wrestling, you're buying that this guy's going to be the next big thing in that sport or in that world. With wrestling, a lot of the lady wrestlers tend to be more popular than the men as far as resale goes, because if you grew up and you had a crush on this lady and she was on your TV every day and, that's what you're into or who you were into, buying her card, you'll spend a little extra money because you're a little sweet on her than you might have been with the Brooklyn Brawler or somebody. So, I don't know, Adam, you got any closing thoughts on this?
I encourage everybody at least, grab like 3 cards and send them off. See what they find out getting graded. Like I said, look it up, spend some time, really deep dive. If this is something you're interested in, it is definitely addictive. There's a lot of fun things, and like you were saying, if you have somebody, you're now engaged in that person's, day to day. It's going to give you a way to, kind of be involved in, like fantasy sports, these DraftKings, these kind of things. If Pete Alonso gets on a hot streak, if Ronald Acuna gets closer to these things, now baseball, the dog days turn into something I might actually watch again. I probably won't watch it. I'll just watch the box score, look into something I haven't looked into. As the playoffs may or may not ever start again, pick up a couple for the top, top guys on each team, and then you're a little more, engaged in it, and then sell it while it's hot. Like I said, just play it.
One thing I'll add as well is farm league teams. If you're in a place where you have, a minor league team, it might be worth your time to get some of those cards. You can access a lot of those players. Like we're saying, Mike Trout was playing here for the, I call them the Bees. Is that still the name?
Yes.
Okay, in Salt Lake Bees, and we could have easily got autographed Mike Trout stuff would be worth a lot now. Not a really hard thing. Derek Jeter rookie cards are going for insane amounts.
We had Mark Trumbo here at the single A club team. Not even single, the rookie league. I mean,
So there's opportunities in that kind of thing. Just kind of think out of the box, right?
you're betting on young stock. That's all you're doing. You're betting on young stock, and like I said, if you enjoy it, then do it.
And that's the thing. It's just like anything else. If you don't like sports, if you don't like cards, it's probably not your thing. But
Thanks for listening this far.
yeah, if you're not this far,
Wow.
if you're just waiting to get into that hot Pokemon talk, I don't know enough about it, but it's the same idea, right? You know what's rare, you know what's valuable, and the other thing is, we talk death and DeathPiles, you might have had a parent or a loved one pass away that has a huge card collection. Before you just throw that away, maybe do a little Google dive or look up some of the stuff. They might be sitting on hundreds of thousands of dollars of cards that you knew nothing about.
Or tens of hundreds of hours of fun with your children.
Oh, again, I'm saying with baseball, it's kind of an older person sport, but it's a good opportunity to connect with maybe grandparents or parents on, hey, Dad, I know you're into baseball. I don't really understand it. Is this a good player?
Just like, I mean, honestly, when we had Brian in here, we talked about, Seattle, the Mariners. I mean, when's the last time you thought he remembered that game that he saw Randy Johnson?
I have no clue.
It brings up that nostalgia, like that kind of thing. I mean, I hadn't thought of Jay Buhner in a long time. Edgar Martinez. I mean,
And Jay Buhner's been thinking about you.
maybe he's going to start following me on Twitter.
That's worth
At
it.
Adam B's 00. I think that's my handle. I don't even know what my handle is.
But yeah, that's the thing. Or basketball. I know my grandparents love the Jazz, like we talked about. One of my grandpas passed away. Loved BYU sports. He loved the Jazz. That was something we could talk about. So that's one of the things I asked him. One of our commentators was used to always be not Hot Rod Hundley, but Boone. You remember Boone?
Rod Mooter.
And I said, was he even that good of a basketball player ever? Like, I've never heard of Boone except for growing up watching
The
him.
ABA.
Well, apparently he was the best shot in the league, and he was a great player, and Grandpa Bird let me know that. So now if I had a Ron Boone card, I'd go find Ron Boone and have him sign it and probably be worth some money because I know that knowledge.
Well, we're getting deep into the weeds. We're going to kind of end our episode, but you brought something up. You hit a nerve.
Uh-oh.
Not a nerve, but just something that I saw that I know you're going to be engaged with now.
I'm currently married.
Well, now that you are, but apparently...
I guess, legally, we are in Utah. I can be engaged to multiple things.
But apparently your buddy, I think his name is Brett Umperdink, he was a quarterback for the BYU Cougars from 1998. Apparently he's going to be the next Bachelor.
Well, probably doesn't have a whole lot else going for him, being quarterback for BYU. So,
I'm just throwing out that maybe Grandpa Bird knows who he was or saw it.
Grandpa Bird's no longer with us
Oh, well,
for that research. That was one of those going back in the banks of memories.
I'll take my foot right out of my mouth.
That's fine. I brought him up. Well, this is a sports kind of theme that we're talking about. With BYU quarterbacks, I've been known for getting my foot in my mouth a time or two. So if Mr. Humperdinck hears that, he can go talk to, what was the other guy's name that was at the Chili's when I went off about him?
That was John Beck.
John Beck. You can go talk to John Beck about what I thought about him. And turns out Mr. Beck and his wife or girlfriend were sitting a couple tables around, but it was on the backside after I went off about what I thought about him and the performance he had one game and how lucky he was to have won that game. And he wasn't so happy to see me come around the corner. Well, the group of us, I'm sure he didn't know which one the voice match because we were kind of quiet once we said, oh, that's John Beck.
Oh, boy.
And what was your other guy from Seattle that you sat next to at the Red Robin?
I was just going to bring that up. That was Jake Heaps.
Apparently he's big up in Seattle talks sports
I
now.
know. He works for Russell Wilson.
Well, our boy Waddy.
Yeah, he works for Russell Wilson. We were sitting next to him, and he had gotten a call from Mike Leach because they just announced he was leaving. And I was sitting there, and he was talking to Mike Leach.
If you'd only had sports cards to have him sign while he was there.
I know. There's a couple things I wish I would have had more of. So that's our deep dive into sports cards.
Aaron, you got any lasting words from your age group, your realm of what you're into? Any lasting thoughts for the kids?
Not a whole lot, just kind of what you were talking about with looking at what things were popular when I was growing up and things that are popular now. just kind of keeping ahead of that. So when that pipe, when it comes down the pipeline or that wave hits, that maybe you can make a profit off of that. So
And you might want to look into things that were popular when your dad and grandpa was younger, and they might have it in the trunks.
A little junk in the trunk.
And grandpa might have some cards sitting there that you have no clue who Yogi Berra is. Turns out he was a big deal.
That's right, Yogi was. So, man, I appreciate everybody's time. Thanks for listening here. We got the PSA information. Send that off. Maybe in the next couple of bit we can get them to sponsor the show.
We're so backlogged on the PSA that once we get these, this is why I've been pushing to get them in. We're probably 90 to 120 days pre everything that's happened the last month or so scare.
What's going to happen now?
So we're not going to get these back for probably maybe 4 to 6 months. So follow the.
That does have one question, is when you send these off, I'm guessing you send it out like certified mail with some insurance on it?
You bet.
Okay. That's
Now, the cards have to be insured at a certain value. You have to send them priority. And depending, you can pay more to be on the fast track, but we're not paying more to be on the fast track.
No fast track for us. So, well, there's two things in life for certain, Derek.
That would be, did we beat Gary's record? Hold on now.
No, not quite. We're almost under. I feel like we better run next door to the Mountain Lightning.
Get some of that toilet paper.
Liquidation. They had some, apparently people walking out with toilet paper, so we're hitting almost an hour, about 57 minutes. You can probably throw in some.
I'm going to go trade Phil some toilet paper for some cards
That's a good idea.
and some hand sanitizer.
I love it.
Wash your hands, people. 2 things for certain.
I don't want to get the corona, so I don't die.
And even if you do, you're going to have to pay taxes.
If tomorrow all the things were gone, I've worked for all my life, and I had to start again with just my family by my side. I thank my lucky stars to be living here today, 'cause the flag still stands for freedom, and they can't take that away. And I'm proud to be an American, well at least I know I'm free. And I won't forget the men who died and who gave that right to me. I'll gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today, 'cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA. From the lakes of Minnesota to the hills of Tennessee, across the plains of Texas, from sea to shining sea, from Detroit down to Houston, from New York to LA. There's a pride in every American heart, and it's time to make a change. I'm proud to be an American, well at least I know I'm free. And I won't forget the men who died and who gave that right to me. I'll gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today, 'cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA. I'm proud to be an American, well at least I know I'm free. And I won't forget the men who died and who gave that right to me. I'll gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today, 'cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA. Thank you. Happy 4th of July. I hope you enjoy the fireworks.